If you saw the thumbnail and read the title of this video, you're in the right place. In this video, I'm going to be making the case as to why allowing discrimination would end Hoeflation. So this video is going to be cut into 5 parts. The first part, we're going to look at the definition of discrimination and dismantle the idea that it's wrong or immoral to discriminate. Second, we're going to give a brief explanation and definition to Hoeflation. Third, we're going to look at how culture is created, established, and enforced. Fourth, I'm going to connect the first 2 parts and explain how discrimination would end Hoeflation. And lastly, I'll give you my conclusions as well with a few caveats. Now, I urge you and encourage you to watch this video to the end. In all likelihood, many of you watching this right now have never heard these ideas or arguments that I'm about to discuss before. You probably never heard them. But I guarantee you, right? I guarantee that I will change the minds of many of you watching this video right now. Or worst case scenario, if I don't, at the very least, you'll be entertained or find these ideas amusing. So let's look at the definition of discrimination. Discrimination is the unjust or prejudicial treatment of different categories of people, especially on the grounds of ethnicity, age, sex, or disability. One thing you need to understand is that everyone, and I mean everyone, discriminates. We wouldn't have a functional society otherwise. So an example of this would be your wife, right? If you have a wife. In order for your wife to remain faithful and loyal to you, she would need to discriminate against other men. Now, there are other men that want to fuck your wife and may in fact feel that this is unjust or prejudicial treatment. Keep in mind that prejudicial just means harmful to someone. Your wife discriminating against me, not allowing me to fuck her, may cause me emotional or even psychological damage, bro. This is especially hurtful since your wife will be discriminating against me based on my innate characteristic, which is that of being a male. Looking at the definition of discrimination, once again, it says, especially ethnicity, sex, or disability. And what are these? These are all innate characteristics. Innate characteristics are qualities or abilities present from birth and are often seen as inherent to a person's species, meaning they are not typically acquired or learned. These are traits often influenced by genetics and are less susceptible to change. So women who have preferences, right, or have a preference, right, for taller men are in essence discriminating against shorter men due to their innate characteristics, right, their genetics of just being short. Another example of everyday discrimination, which many don't even seem to bat an eyelid over, is when one is applying for a car, house, or anything under the sun that requires good credit. Well, you would need to discriminate against those with bad credit to increase the likelihood that they will not default and make their payments as agreed upon. Now, I'm sure that people with bad credit will feel that this is unjust or prejudicial, right? Well, how about applying for a job? Well, the most qualified candidates will be the ones that get hired, meaning that you will need to discriminate against those who are not qualified. Even DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, discriminates in order to make hiring quotas based on, you guessed it, ethnicity, age, or disability. You can't make this shit up, huh? So fundamentally and definitionally, everyone in one way or another discriminates. There's nothing wrong or immoral about that. What is immoral and what is wrong is when the government gets involved and removes choice by force. Now, let me explain what I mean by this. People either forget, don't understand, or don't make the connection that slavery was allowed and enforced by the government. Jim Crow laws were allowed and enforced by the government, not individuals or businesses. Even the Civil Rights Act is just the government forcing integration through violence, which is what the state is. The state is compliance or violence, or in other legal consequences are involved as well. The only thing that is immoral in all these examples is the use and threat of violence from the state. If the government were to have said, well, we are abolishing Jim Crow laws and you are now free to choose who and who not to associate with without the fear of any government interference. Well, that would have been one thing if that happened, but that's not what happened, did it? The only moral choice here is freedom of association. And what is freedom of association? Well, freedom of association is the right to come together with others to form groups or organizations without undue interference or restrictions from authorities. It encompasses both the right to associate and the right to not associate. This is a fundamental human right that is crucial for democracy. There goes that word that leftists love, democracy, right? So there's no way that you can tell me we live in the land of the free when you are forced to associate with groups or individuals while having a gun pointed to your head. Ultimately, that's what a law is. A law is just an opinion with a gun. Laws aren't moral by any stretch of the imagination. So anyone who would make the argument that, but it's a law, bro, therefore good, bro. I mean, I don't know what you can say to such stupidity, right? But I'll tell you what. Explain to me, right? I want you to explain to me as if I were a child how slavery, by that logic, was not immoral in the past, because slavery, the owning of another human being, was in fact the law. All right. So now let's take a look at Hoeflation. What is Hoeflation? A simple definition of Hoeflation is the increase in cost for a man to maintain a relationship. I would say maintain and enter. For a man to maintain and enter a relationship with a woman while the quality of the woman continues to decrease. Now, there are many reasons for this. I actually did a video explaining government's involvement in creating degeneracy and promiscuity. The video is called Sex is a Government Program. Link down in the description below. So, anyways, Hoeflation can be cut up into two parts, all right? So the first one is price increase. And the second one is depreciation. So a price increase refers to a situation where the cost of goods or services goes up. This happens for various reasons, including increased production costs, higher demand, or in general, inflation. So the cost or price of entering or even maintaining a relationship has increased. This is due to women's demands, which include but are not limited to a man's income, his physical appearance, or his emotional investment. Depreciation, on the other hand, refers to a reduction in the value of an asset with the passage of time, due in particular to wear and tear. Wear and tear. Well, for the sake of this discussion that we're having right now, you can just remove wear and tear and replace it with riding the cock carousel or body count, right? Whichever you prefer. So anyways, depreciation here is connected to the quality or value of a woman being lowered over time, yet prices remain high and keep increasing. So imagine walking into a used car dealership and seeing or having a salesperson try to sell you a used Honda at Lamborghini prices. Man, this would be completely absurd, right? This is completely insane. But this is the reality in the sexual marketplace in the West. So now let's take a look at culture. Culture encompasses the shared behaviors, beliefs, values, and material objects that categorize a group of people. It's a way of life passed down through generations, shaping how individuals think, feel, and act within a society. Culture includes language, custom, traditions, social norms, and even the physical environment. Although culture is created by a few exceptional men throughout history, the vast majority of culture is established through men's aggression and violence. Yet men are not the enforcers of culture. Men built and shaped culture. I mean, there's no denying that. But men do not enforce culture. The enforcers of culture are women. Now, why is that? Well, historically and evolutionarily, who has been in charge of and responsible for the raising of infants and toddlers? Well, women, of course. And culture is transmitted to children by their mothers. Women transfer culture to their children using emotional bribery and manipulation. So let me explain. So children, we have all experienced this, right? As children, we all experience this. You get the, yay, good job, and emotional praise when you do something that pleases your mother. But if you do something that displeases your mother, you get the cold shoulder, you get rejected, you get cold looks, you get the threat of ostracism, which babies experience as a potential death threat. Because if your parents didn't like you in the past, you ain't surviving, bro, okay? You ain't making it. You ain't making it. This is how women pass down and enforce culture, influencing and molding their children's personalities, values, and beliefs. Women transmit culture through emotional aggression and reward, hugs, kisses, right? Versus scorn and rejection. Now let me ask you this. Who would you rather go to war with? The red pill guy who believes in hypergamy and female nature, right? Or would you rather go to war with the Christian who believes that he will be rewarded by God with eternal life? Who do you think will be more likely to die for their beliefs? And that is culture. Culture does not need to be rational or logical at all. It is, right? Culture is, however, powerful, and it creates stability and protection for its people and its tribe. However, when you get women into the workforce through DEI and quota hirings via the government, you don't get your religion and your culture passed down to your children. If you want to destroy culture, you separate the women from their babies. The government always wants to try to separate mothers from their children and put their children in the hands of the state. Because once the government takes over the raising of children, then the government can inflict whatever culture it wants upon the children. So men as a whole, we don't care that much about politeness or what's appropriate or inappropriate. Men as a whole are not micromanaging the status quo. But women, women are the ones who micromanage what is correct and incorrect behavior to the point where you end up with your current culture. From women's enforcement, culturally, you get what's considered to be good or what's considered to be bad, what is right and what is wrong. And the question that most men, the majority of men have, is why are women so susceptible to propaganda? Well, this is due to female conformity, groupthink, and the value women place on group acceptance. So when younger women have older women, as well as mainstream media and Hollywood telling them what to do, they will generally go along with it because that's how culture is transmitted. Okay? That's how women have been protected. This is also how men have been given something to fight for, something to strive for, something to fucking die for. So getting mad at women for that which allowed us to survive, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I just don't get it. To wish, it's like this, to wish that women have the same resistance to propaganda as men do is to wish for non-existence. Because evolutionarily, we survive as a species because culture is propaganda. Propaganda that's transmitted from women. Okay, it's transmitted by women. So if as a society we were to allow freedom of association, meaning the ability to discriminate, it's not going to be men policing and enforcing or even oppressing, right? Oppressing women. Oh, no. The enforcers of women's morals, virginity, and decency are going to be other women. Women have always used exclusion, rejection, excommunication, and especially shaming to keep women's sexuality in check. The problem that we currently have right now is if a woman were to discriminate, okay, against, let's say, a OnlyFans prostitute, she could be sued or face other legal consequences. And this empowers women to enforce any kinds of morals or virtues in society. So what you get is, right? So this is what you get. What you get is the most dysfunctional and vile women, okay, that currently have a chokehold, right? They have a freaking chokehold on societal norms. Add to that women's high level of agreeableness, groupthink, and a desire for women to be accepted by the group. And this is all a recipe to have the horrors in our society lead and dictate the standards. So what happens in return? Well, women can't enforce rules of behavior with other women. So you get what we currently have in society right now, which is a race to the bottom. All right, a race to the bottom of women competing to be the sluttiest of them all. It becomes about who can show off more skin in order to gain attention and acquire resources from men. You see, when it came to polite society, women would never allow their men, sons, husbands, fathers, brothers to hire, rent to, bank to, or associate with women who were known to be whores or indecent. Women, for all their false and fake friendliness, are extremely ruthless and territorial. These women would not allow whores to run around rampantly in society. It just wouldn't happen. But now that we do, well, this creates instability. What happens is that now this creates unfaithful, unloyal men who would never settle down, because instead of marrying a woman to gain sexual access, which is how it was done in the past, men can now, especially those men at the top that the majority of women desire, can easily gain sex without any commitment on their part. Now, of course, right? Of course, I'm not saying that men have no free will. I'm not saying that at all. However, what I am saying is that men are pre-wired. They come pre-wired to respond to women in this way, especially women who present themselves provocatively. So, I mean, so don't blame me. I'm just the messenger. So in conclusion, this is, of course, just a hypothetical and an argument from consequentialism. Consequentialism evaluates the morality of actions based on their outcomes and not the actions themselves. Now, no one can predict the future. No one can say, well, do X and then B will happen. I don't believe in that. And I'm definitely far from a consequentialist. However, I do believe that I've made good moral arguments here based on first principles. Now, with that, I'm going to end the video. I'm open to any feedback or criticism that you guys may have in the comment section below. Also, if you like the video, remember that sharing is caring. If you can share this video with other people. And with that, I'll talk to you guys next time. All right, later. Peace. But apparently not in the Middle East.